Coming up.
I did an arabesque in the middle of it.
I gave someone a plaster. I'm not a doctor.
Is it quirky?
That never belongs to anyone else.
You didn't give me the note that it was Sean Bean.
And so I've become more fearful.
I think this might knock him off his perch.
What do you mean I have to dial up?
He was a bit bemused, wasn't he, our knight?
Don't crick anything, love.
Oh, you're a bit young for knowing that, aren't you?
I've made a career out of this.
How do you say that?
That's cool.
If you can do it, do it.
And now, enjoy the podcast.
How do you say that?
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 Hello and welcome to today's episode of How Do You Say That, sponsored by BritishVoiceover.co.uk. This is my co-host Mark Rice.
Hello, I'm waving, and this is my co-host Sam Boffian.
And we are about to have our weekly hit of voiceover fun with some scripts and a brand new guest.
Yes, so welcome to the Practical Podcast for voiceovers and everyone else who works with voices. And if you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, just hit the follow button and the newest episode will drop into your feed every Friday morning.
Woohoo! Now, Mark, true or false?
Okay.
I went to an all-girls private school.
Oh, I'm gonna go true that you did go to an all-girls private school.
Absolutely not.
Oh, no,
I went
really?
Absolutely not. I went to the local mixed comp.
Nice. That's a good one. But you can understand the image that you give off, perhaps.
Yeah. I'm always amazed. I'm very, very ordinary background, and yet I don't sound necessarily as though I have.
Here's my true or false. I was once left entirely speechless during a live radio ad. Literally, I couldn't speak.
True or false? I can't imagine you ever being entirely speechless, to be honest. No, I don't think you were left entirely speechless.
So
false.
You think that's false? It's actually true. Live commercial. I was hanging upside down over a skip of entries in a car lot.
Of course.
And I cricked my back.
Of course you were.
Literally, I cricked my back just as we went live, and it took all of the breath away, and it was like I was winded. I literally couldn't speak.
Oh my God.
It was horrible. Absolutely horrible. They played a song. We did it about an hour later.
They played a song.
No health and safety back in those days, back in the 80s when I did it.
And of course, we have a very special guest today, actor Mike Bodie.
Hello, Mike.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure.
It's a pleasure.
Let's find out a little bit more about Mike, shall we?
So Mike is an Olivier-nominated actor, voice actor and voice director based in London. He's one of the founders, owners and performers of the Olivier and Tony Award-winning theatre company Mischief Theatre, who are the makers of the very famous The Play That Goes
Amazing.
Wrong, which is now in its 10th year in the West End, and the upcoming The Comedy About Spies at the Noel Coward Theatre.
Oh, fantastic stuff. Well, best known for his game VO work, Mike is one of the UK's most prolific voice actors in games, with over 130 games in 6 years.
Oh.
A regular speaker at games conferences across Central and Eastern Europe, Mike is a voice acting mentor with Limit Break, the video game mentorship program. Well, welcome along to the podcast, Mike. Have you got a true or false fun fact for us?
I do, yes. I have died formally 4 times.
Oh, my God.
Formally, as in
Being
IRL?
dead.
Really, you've been pronounced dead now. Is this okay? Is this false or true?
I'm going to go true, Sam, because who would make that up? How would you make that up, Sam? What do you think?
Okay. Yes, okay. Well, we'll go... I just can't... I'm going to go false.
Okay, so we have a split opinion, Mike. Let us know. What's the
truth
story?
is that it's split. I have almost died 4 times over the years through various occurrences. One was I was in a car accident when I was 5. I got hit by a car, went headfirst into the windshield, and then there was a whole bunch of malpractice at the hospital, and I had to learn to walk again. The other one was I got a very rare illness a couple of years ago, which I had to run a GoFundMe to.
I remember this.
Yeah, to pay for, because the NHS they make their decisions on whether they perform the operation for the illness based on your blood metrics, and mine didn't tick their box. And the other one was medication related, entirely accidental. That one I got carbon dioxide poisoning.
God, Mike.
Are you a cat? You've got 9 lives. It's
I
unbelievable.
know, 5 left.
Well, on that rather macabre note, let's have a look at the first script of our show and ask, how do you say that?
How do you say that?
So, this is a little something that I did just before Christmas, in fact.
It looks to me like it's almost a company show reel about making videos.
It absolutely is, yeah.
Oh,
Funnily enough.
It feels like there would be a 5-6 second pause at the beginning to allow you to skip it. But if you
Yes.
as a viewer really want to invest, you can totally invest in it. But it feels like in the read of it, it felt like there would be a 5-second like, okay, and you can skip it if you want, but you could keep watching. Oh, you're watching. Oh, good. Okay, great. Thanks.
Is it quirky?
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's light, certainly. I mean, you can make it as quirky or not as you
I think I might have to.
prefer.
I'll go quirky to start with, and then we'll see what
Okay.
Mike does, and then you can show us what
Okay.
you did. I like ones
Fantastic.
like I quite like ones like this. I've done a few of these over
Yeah.
the years. So let's have a look what I come up with. Ooh. Complex ideas. Endlessly fascinating, tricky to understand. Now that's why companies like ours make bite-sized, easy-to-follow videos like this one, packed with information, facts and examples that bring complicated ideas to life. For audiences everywhere, from preschoolers and students to workforces and curious minds across the world. Wow. I went quirky.
It has that classic British corporate read that is. It doesn't have a lot of. Is the word prosody? I think.
Yep.
Where
Up and
like,
downness. Yes.
the up and downness and it gets the information across in a way that nobody could ever go, that's a bit offensive, or in any way whatsoever. It's such a classic British sound.
Mike, I've made a
Yeah, it
career
is.
out of this.
Exactly. It's like if you can do it, do it.
It's actually quite self-deprecating in many ways.
Yes.
It has that kind of understated feel to it, doesn't it? We kind of make, difficult things fairly easy.
Yeah.
It's sort of, I know what you mean. You went quite high on a couple of
Deliberately.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I was trying to get a little bit
Adding
of
prosody.
amusement in there. I'm not sure whether I succeeded or not.
No, I liked it. It was there was a lot of fun in that read.
Mike, I'm fascinated to see what you might do with it. You get asked to do a huge amount of different stuff, but a lot of characters. So I wonder what you're going to do with it.
I had a bunch of reels made with J. Michael Collins, and I also, as a part of that, got additional training for the U.S.-centric market because everything that I was doing was in North American English for the U.K. market. So it had U.K. sentiment in performance, but American accent. And so then I brought that to the U.S. market, and they went, yeah, no, that's not going to work. And J. Michael Collins very keenly said, yeah, what you're doing works for the UK market, but it won't work for the US market because that's culturally and stylistically not what they go for. Mm-hmm. So, Mark, on your read, that is like exactly how I would have done it myself, is straight down the barrel, classic, sort of semi-reserved, energetic, easy to listen to. How I'm going to do it is how I think if I got this from my U.S. agent, this is how I would do it for the U.S. market, given the vocal age, given the vocal age range that they would have given me this for.
Okay, go for it.
Complex ideas, endlessly fascinating, tricky to understand. That's why companies like ours make bite-sized, easy-to-follow videos, like this one, packed with information, facts, and examples that bring complicated ideas to life. For audiences everywhere, from preschoolers and students to workforces and curious minds across the world.
I see what you mean about the difference in market. Yeah, absolutely. There were a number of question marks in there, I thought. You almost made some sentences into questions, which actually is good because then the audience goes, yeah, that's exactly what I meant.
I always assume that there's license for me to do something with the script, and particularly the Americans tend to be infinitely less precious about the text than culturally we are in the UK. In the UK, it's like, sorry, you're not the writer, why are you changing it? Whereas in the US, they'd be like, no, I've got a writing credit from like 15 years ago, so technically I'm a writer. It's like, yeah, but all right. It's like I gave someone a plaster, I'm not a doctor.
It feels like it would be something that's like pre-roll on a YouTube commercial.
Yep, totally.
So it has
Absolutely.
to have that kind of like, hey, this is totally casual. Like I'm not interrupting that video you want to watch. You want to watch this thing.
But actually, what you're saying is casual, not casual.
Yeah, it's a performance of what people think casual is.
That was entirely different to how they would expect you to approach something in the UK.
Yeah.
So, of course, then, that means that when we're auditioning, as we often do, for US stuff from the UK, that's what we're missing. That's the bit of Lego that we're not putting in
good point.
In the read, if you like. We're giving them a UK read, thinking they want a UK voice, they want a UK read, but exactly the same way as you've learnt to do a US accent British read, we need to be able to change it up for the US market.
Good point.
All the phrases were very separate phrases. Mm-hmm. I think you'll hear that mine is a lot muddier than that, if you like, a lot more, I don't know. Anyway, I'll do it and you'll see exactly how entirely different I think it is.
Fascinating.
Which, okay. Complex ideas. Endlessly fascinating. Tricky to understand. That's why companies like ours make bite-sized, easy-to-follow videos, like this one, packed with information, facts, and examples that bring complicated ideas to life. For audiences everywhere, from preschoolers and students to workforces and curious minds across the world.
There's a greater sense of flow with the text. It's like you've hit play on a video and it's just started playing the text.
Do you know why that is, Mike? She ignores punctuation always. Just ignores it. If it's a different line, doesn't care.
But it's fascinating, isn't it? Because, if on the times that I've been asked to do stuff in the US, I've been specifically asked to do it as a Brit, like a Brit.
Yep.
And they've made a point of that, so that really rather explains that. Because I need to learn how to talk like talk with my accent, but in an American way.
Because what I was doing when I read mine was, in my mind, I'm visualizing where the cuts are going to be in congruence with the visuals. So the complex ideas, we're going to see something complex. Endlessly fascinating. We're going to see something wherein someone is endlessly fascinated. And then we get to another shot of something tricky to understand. Because I'm assuming that this will be tied into a visual element.
Yeah,
and if
absolutely.
I'm not providing them the audio that's going to best support the visual element, because even if somebody's listening with their phone on silent, there might even be text. So then the primary method of communication of the product is going to be through the eyes. So our voice will be supporting the visual element as a secondary thing. Mm-hmm. But so I'm thinking when I'm reading this, okay, US style visual presentation, how can my voice support the visuals? Because they'll spend $250,000 plus on the visuals, and then they'll pay me $4 or $5K. Sorry, 4 or 5 figures for the other thing. So we're only there to kind of support the other investment in that regard. So I thought of it from purely a visual standpoint.
It's a great way of looking at it, though, Sam.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to move us on because it is worthwhile remembering that these are real scripts we're working on. We've changed some names and some details to avoid copyright issues. And while we're on the subject of scripts, you can find both the ones that we're using in the show notes of today's episode.
Mike, you've bought obviously a very, very different script. Can you give us a little bit of info about it?
These are lines from an audition script for a character who is he's described as a 50-something-year-old knight, and originally there were character references provided. He's a knight, less King Arthur, Knights of the Round Table, knights who say knee, and more something gritty, grounded, cinematic, if you will. And so each of these 5 lines are, and this is the thing that's quite common with most game scripts and game scripts for auditions. Mm-hmm. Every single line is its own contained scene. Yep. And casting directors will intentionally put certain lines after the other in order to catch people out. Mm-hmm. So, for example, you might have line 1, and this is not for this one, but for example, you might have line 1 is taking place in a battle. Yep. Big, screamy, shouty. Line 2 is 3 weeks later, you're having a cup of tea, chatting with a mate. But because the actor has gotten their heart rate up from screaming and shouting in the first one, they haven't left enough time for their heart rate to drop back to a normal speaking level.
They're still in the battle, even though contextually it's 3 weeks later. So what you don't hear is that actor making that emotional shift and understanding that I'm not in the battle anymore. I'm having tea with a mate. But vocally, particularly because with game scripts, we presume that we say one line after the other in the way we would in a play or on screen, that you get the scene and you have your lines. Person A says a line, person B says a line, person A responds to person B. But with audition scripts, you are essentially given the emotional highs and lows, the peaks and the troughs of if you imagine the character's emotional journey like a waveform, you're given the highs and the lows and maybe something in the middle. And it's presumed that if you're able to demonstrate your ability to perform the highs and the lows and some piece in the middle, and then some other technical screamy, shouty stuff, that you can then do all of the mundane, domestic, tying my shoes, making a cuppa.
It's a great way of looking at it, Sam, isn't it? I don't think that we have had anybody break it down that you've got to be really careful that the different lines are different. Okay, just one quick question about the character, Mike. You said 50-something, and yet the script actually reads, I am an old man.
Depending on your native language that you grew up with, your perception of a person's age and their pitch that they speak at will be different. So the 50s is more of a guide towards can be more of a guide towards the vocal texture, the voice print, the emotional sentiment, but doesn't have to sort of exactly match that, if you will.
Interesting.
Also, in days of yore, you were old if you got...
Yeah, well, that's true, absolutely, yeah. And probably full of disease and everything else. Yeah, quite, absolutely. Sam, do you want to have a go first?
If you want me to, yes, of course.
I'm going to say go ahead.
Okay. You bloody greenhorns. I'm an old woman at arms, and I have seen more skirmishes and battles. Most of you have years. Nothing is more terrible upon this earth, and nothing more glorious. You've got a heart of gold. Don't let these folks take it from you. Enough! We're done here. Now you will meet your maker. My lord, this blade of mine is yours, as this heart as well that never belonged to anyone else. There are spirits everywhere. Ghosts, really. We carry them with us wherever we go.
Yeah, lovely. So with all of these, so for example, like it was good when you went on number 3 that you suddenly increased your pitch, because this would be, for example, on this line in particular, enough, we're done here now, you will meet your maker. That would be, particularly also from a game perspective, that would be a lead-in line to probably a fight. So the control is relinquished from the player as they're shown a visual element or a cutscene, and then the control is returned to the player for them to then control their player to fight the person who's speaking, whether it's their player character or an opponent who has said this line. So obviously, providing that vocal energy and being much louder in an aggressive manner is great for this piece here. If they're going to be vocally similar, they have to be vocally emotionally distinct. Okay. So, for example, so I've actually moved these lines around to catch people out, and to show as an example. So normally it's actually the second line here is the first one. And so you start with something kind of, you could be, for example, speaking to a child, and let's flesh out the whole scene. So for myself, generally if I've directed people on this, it's treat it like you're walking down the street in your town, you're among the castle. You see a kid, he's just had the shit beaten out of him, pardon my French, by some other bullies. And somebody else has another kid's come in and stepped up to try and protect him, but the bullies punch him in the face as well. So this kid who stepped up falls down. And the knight sees that the kid who's been punched, who tried to save this other one, he comes over to him and says, hey, you got your butt kicked, but you did the right thing, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So that whole scenario is necessary and aids for the delivery of the line, because all of that context comes through. Even if you don't know the exact specifics, the listener's going to be able to go, there's something there. You have this wonderful thing called an audio suite where you can cut out the gaps. So after your first line, if you need to take a second, to reset where your character is, what's just happened, what's going on. Do that and just keep rolling. And then perform the line.
And indeed, for our listeners, I'm going to do that for all three of us because rather than waiting. I thought that was a fascinating breakdown of both it and what Sam did. I'm a bit scared now to actually have a go.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. You bloody greenhorns. I am an old man at arms. I've seen more skirmishes and battles than most of you have years. Nothing is more terrible upon this earth, and nothing more glorious. Oh, you've got a heart of gold. Don't let these folk take it from you. Enough! We are done here. Now you will meet your maker. My lord, this blade of mine is yours, and this heart as well, that never belonged to anyone else. There are spirits everywhere, ghosts, really. We carry them with us wherever we go.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. You lent into the old.
Yes.
Obviously, deliberately.
Yep.
Deliberately. I don't know how.
Yeah.
How did that read for you, Mike?
Yeah, I haven't. To be honest, I've heard this done a lot by various people, and I haven't heard that interpretation. Where you lean into the kind of the decrepitness of age and the difficulty of speech because one's has diminishing faculties, if you will.
Yep.
To lean into that kind of oldness, if you will, is I haven't heard that done before, which is great. And you obviously hit the points where. Obviously, you have that element on 3 where you get louder to imply.
Well, I thought after you explained line 2 as well, I thought I did that quite differently as well. I did that very differently than I would have originally done it, put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. You're the first person who's done it that way.
So as a casting director, does that make you prick your ears up?
Yeah, it makes me prick my ears up because making that choice is very bold.
Yep.
Because you're saying, I think he's probably this.
Yep.
And as long as the other performative and emotional elements are there, that might be something where they go, okay, I hear what he's done. I can hear all of the emotional intent behind it. What I actually want is not so much the decrepitness. I want that emotional intent you have, but let's move it away from the diminishing faculties and into somebody who is capable maintaining the emotional choices that you've made.
Sure. I'm interested to hear what you do with it.
Sure.
You bloody greenhorns. I am an old man at arms, and I've seen more skirmishes and battles than most of you have years. Nothing is more terrible upon this earth. And nothing more glorious. Your faces. Psst. Come here, lad. You've got a heart of gold. Don't let these folk take it from you. Yeah? Enough! We are done here. Now you will meet your maker! My lord, this blade of mine is yours. And this heart as well. That never belonged to anyone else. There are spirits everywhere. Ghosts, really. We carry them with us. Wherever we go.
5 very distinct scenes.
Wow,
Yep,
so
absolutely.
good.
You didn't give me the note that it was Sean Bean.
No,
At which case, we all could have done Sean Bean.
Well, yeah, maybe not like that.
No, maybe not like that. No,
that was I mean,
I love it.
There was some quite
The
chilling
original
things there.
description
It's
on
really
it had the character listed as British, so any accent is in that realm is it works for it.
If I do a role on stage, I am really happy to embody an accent and do embody many different accents. I have become, over time, really nervous about doing them on mic. I don't know why I don't do them. Well, I do know why I've become nervous about them, because I hear all the time that people don't want to hear my accent of choice. They would book a Mancunian if they wanted to do
Authenticity.
a Mancunian accent.
Yeah.
And so I've become more fearful?
I think I know where you're coming from, because I have this similarly. So for traditional voiceover work like IVR, commercial, corporate, e-learning, medical, I am most at ease and I can wield my instrument best for those mediums, utilizing my natural speech pattern. When I get into the realm of something more characterful, or whether it's generally for animation and games, or maybe they want a certain animated character for selling some plumbing product, I don't know. Then in those times is when I'm perfectly fine doing something accent-based, because I'm playing a character, and that character speaks with an accent which informs a characterization. Like the stereotype, you hear somebody from the West Country, they might be a farmer. Like, we all recognize that immediately. That's just like, it's a cultural trope, which is based on, that a lot of farmers come from the West Country. But like if somebody said, hey, can you do Scots accented English and sell me this car, I'd probably just better get somebody who's Scots to do that.
So for a commercial, absolutely. But for a character role, very different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Play How Do You Say That?
All right, now it's time for the wild card. Mike, can you pick one of the scripts for either Sam or me? You get to choose and give us a new character or direction, what you would like us to do with it that's different to the original.
Yes, Mark, I want you to do script 1 as your character from script 2.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is quite cool.
As though they've taken your knight character and gone, right, my lord, you have to sell this. He's like,
all right.
What? He's like, okay.
I think this might knock him off his perch. We'll see. All right, I'll give it a go. Complex ideas, endlessly fascinating, tricky to understand. That's why companies like ours make bite-size, easy-to-follow videos. Video? What's a video? Like this one, packed with information, facts, examples that bring complicated ideas to life. For audiences everywhere from preschoolers and students to workforces and curious minds across the world. I'm not sure what we got there.
Extraordinary. He was a bit bemused, wasn't he? Our knight.
I thought
Who got me to do this?
Tis what it is. Sam, would you like to choose one for Mike to do?
Yes, so Mike, I'd like you to do your script, but I'd like you to do it a bit like a Shaggy Dog story.
Yeah,
telling a story that is definitely, a story that goes on, but eventually has this punchline at the end. So as if you're telling the story and you're getting to the punchline, and it's totally up to you who you're telling the story to.
Gotcha.
That's tough, Sam. That is tough.
Well, this time it's almost the opposite. He's got to string it all together.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
You bloody greenhorns, I'm an old man at arms, and I've seen more skirmishes and battles than most of you have years. Nothing is more terrible upon this earth, and nothing more glorious. You've got a heart of gold. Don't let them folk take it from you. Enough, we're done here. Now you will meet your maker, my lord. This blade of mine is yours, and this heart as well. That never belonged to anyone else. There are spirits everywhere. Ghosts, really. We carry them with us wherever we go.
And there's the punchline.
Ta-da. Did that feel strange, pulling it all together like that?
Completely mental.
It sounded a bit
mental.
strange, pulling it all together like that. But the idea of the Shaggy Dog story is clever because it goes from one level to another to another.
Yeah.
End.
Yeah.
I like that.
End.
How strange.
So now you've got to give me Summit.
Now, Sam, I'm going to give you script 2 because I think there's more to play with, but I will also get you to kind of pull it together. But I want you to do a very different character. I would like you to be a gymnastic expert, and you are so not an old man, obviously, young woman, perhaps, maybe, and you are telling the story of how you won the Olympic gold at gymnastics?
Oh, gosh. Okay. So, okay. You bloody greenhorns. I am an old man at arms, and I have seen more skirmishes and battles than most of you have years now. Nothing is more terrible upon this earth, and nothing more glorious. You've got a heart of gold. Don't let these folk take it from you. Enough! We are done here. Now, you will meet your maker. My lord, this blade of mine is yours, and this heart as well that never belonged to anyone else. There are spirits everywhere. Ghosts, really. We carry them wherever we go.
I got the feeling you were actually giving us a demonstration of the gymnastics there as well. Certainly, spirits everywhere. Boom! Over the
middle,
horse.
I did because you would, wouldn't you?
Yes, I think you would. If you're selling how you created this amazing gold medal, I love that.
Yeah.
Not at all what I was expecting, though, Mike. I don't know what.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know really what I was expecting, but not that.
God knows what you were expecting.
That's so funny.
I did an arabesque in the middle of it. I like to think in my mind.
Absolutely. In your mind, yes. Don't crick anything, love. Well, as always, we've put the scripts in the show notes so you can have a try yourself in whatever character you like.
Absolutely. So, Mike, you are a stage actor as well as a director, as well as a voiceover actor. What elements do you find that you're keeping from stage work that you also bring into voice acting?
A thing that I find that I take with me, physicalization, which is probably like an easy, kind of voice acting 101 thing. That you must physicalize the text. But I think a lot of I tend to do quite well with a lot of the comedic, kind of dry, sarcastic stuff, which tends to be the wheelhouse of our work in Mischief Theater, and taking that into voiceover, particularly emphasizing pieces of lines and text and finding the jokes and things and the wordplay, is something that I take from my theater work into voiceover, which has served me really well. Which is not always. It's something that unless you have physically done it, it's not something you can always learn, because you learn by the doing, and particularly being on stage in front of 500 people unmiked eight times a week. Yeah. Like you're only going to get those reps in by doing that and by listening to other people and getting the chance to try it, see what works and see what doesn't. And obviously every audience is different, but you know what works and when it does, and then if it's good, you do that again, and hopefully you do it new every time. As far as what I leave. That I do in voiceover that I don't do on stage work, we have a lot more license to pull weird physical posture, shapes, faces, and things with our voice, because no one's going to. We don't hear with our eyes. We essentially see with our ears, particularly with game work and most forms of voiceover, that we don't see what the person's wearing, what they look like, the kind of weird kind of gurning they're doing to make that one sound and sound something really good. So that's something that I can't do on stage because they're going, sorry, mate, what are you doing with your face? But if I do that in a booth, they go, wow, I love take two. We'll take three as the alternate, but we're keeping two. It's like, you're welcome, sir.
well, you see, 'cause it's fascinating that both the things that you are both taking and leaving behind, if you like, or emphasizing, are the physicality of things.
Yeah.
Both the physicalization of your body, but also then of your face, if you like, of the,
And the things that physically are appropriate and fine in the booth, but not on stage.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. Both physically based things. I think voiceover can be a very frictionless industry to get into. You buy a Blue Yeti mic and throw a duvet over your head, but the high level stuff is acting from your head to your toes, as cliched as it sounds. And having that ability and willingness to kind of both try it if you don't know it at default, but to kind of give it a go is infinitely useful and pays dividends. From utilizing it.
Do you know what? You have given us some pearls of wisdom there. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
A reminder that all of Mike Bodie's details can be found in the show notes. I hope you've enjoyed it.
I've had a great time. Thank you. This has been wonderful.
And of course, the scripts are also in the show notes. And do hit the follow button on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That would make us feel very warm.
Yes, it would. Absolutely.
This 2025. To have some 2025 reviews would be amazing.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks again to the amazing Mike Bodie, and we will be back next week with more scripts and another voiceover guest when we'll be asking,
How do you say that?
How do you say that?